Episode 49. If you're looking for the Late Night Vision Show, you have found it. The first podcast exclusively for all you night vision hunters, thermal hunters out there, hog and coyotes. If you've been looking for that show, you have found the right spot on your radio dial. Well, maybe not on your radio dial, your podcast app, or if you found us on YouTube, thank you for joining us this week. We, like I said, the first show for night vision thermal hunters out there. We're lucky enough to have the expert that knows all this stuff, but the life of the party, the man that can show you how to Roger Rabbit and describe to you the difference between 12 micron and 17 micron, Mr. Jason Robertson. How you doing this evening?
Well, I don't even know what the Roger Rabbit is, but I know a little more about 12 and 17 microns. But you said expert, and I was looking around behind me. I thought there must be somebody over here in the room with me. I was confused, but I'm glad to be here. And how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. It's a good night to be on the show. I've gotten hog pictures blowing up my camera. Which is good news. It's a catch-22, but if you're in the business of producing content and showing people scope pictures, it's a good business to be in and a good time. But no, everything's going good. I had a hunt last weekend with James from the Guns and Chicken Strips YouTube channel. We hooked up with the guys over at TX Bacon Tech for a little night of East Texas hog hunting. It rained all day, but it cleared up that night. Got a chance to go out. Got 5 hogs, and we had a good time. Rode around on the mule all night long. Just 5 guys with ARs strapped around their chest, riding around looking for pigs.
I have a question. I want to talk about these 5 pigs. First of all, it was nasty weather for all day. I was shocked that y'all got a break in the weather to see any hogs. But I have this question. Right. So I've seen a little bit of video. I've heard a little bit of stories. I heard y'all got on a group. There was several of you, 3, 4, whatever. And there was about 20 hogs in it. And then I heard some more stories about, we saw a single boar, shot him. Another single hog shot. How did you only get 5 hogs with all of y'all and one big group? I got to know more about this.
You're going to make me throw a friend under the bus. That's
no,
okay.
I just want to know why I throw a friend. Does your rifle not work? I want to know.
No. So it's okay because we were giving him a hard time all night. But a buddy of mine who is going to remain nameless because he listens to the show, he did one of those. We got up on a group of about 20 hogs, and there was 4 of us lined up at the time. We were still meeting somebody else, but he did one of those silent countdowns. I think it's where you kind of count down to yourself, but nobody else can hear you. But no, it was all good. Everybody started shooting at different times, and by the time I looked through the scope, all I saw was butts running into the woods. And I know, but we gave him a hard time. We still, he was
the only one who heard the countdown.
The silent countdown. So, but no, those guys are good guys. They took us out all night long. We got a bunch of good clips and some videos and stuff of that night. And I know James with Guns and Chicken Strips is going to be sharing that on his YouTube channel soon. So y'all go check that out. But man, it's just it's good to get out and ride around and do that kind of stuff every now and then. Getting home at 5 o'clock in the morning was not very awesome.
I'm too old for that. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Man.
Especially when you have kids that wake you up at 7 o'clock in the morning, regardless. My wife's famous saying is, and if I've heard it once, I've heard it a million times. If you play, you got to pay. And I definitely played that night, so I got up and did the dad thing. And that afternoon, ended up taking them to see a movie, the kids and me, and saw a movie and played arcade video games. And honestly, didn't fall asleep through the movie, which I couldn't believe because I was exhausted.
In the movie.
I was exhausted.
I'm impressed.
But hey, we're a lot of this show. We're talking about scopes, and we're going to get to some scope news right now, but we also got we're going to talk a little bit more about some current events that are going around. I know that's something that we really haven't spent a lot of time on, Jason, but there's some things happening in the news that are relevant to night vision and
Sure.
to thermal and to hunting in that whole genre. And but before we get to that, let's get some updates on some of these binoculars and scopes that we have either coming out or coming out right now.
Absolutely. There's a lot of exciting stuff going on right now. In January, every year, we have SHOT Show in Vegas. All the new stuff is announced. Everybody gets pumped up. I mean, us especially, and we get all excited about it. And we talk a bunch about it, the little bit that we know, and more news dribbles out. And then it just kind of gets in that lull of like, okay, when's the new stuff coming? When's the new stuff coming? And so everybody's anxious. But as most of y'all know, I'm sure, the Race, Sightmark Wraith HD digital night vision scope, we did the review of those last week on the show. They are out. I know most of you probably heard last week's show, or you've been catching up on them. You probably already know this, but I'm just going to say for those who are just tuning in, it is a $499 digital night vision scope, full color during the day, black and white at night. It is a amazing optic. Hans and I both have been super excited about it. And we're going to be talking some more in some other episodes about it. I've already had requests this week for us to compare it to the Photon and to compare it to the ATN X-Sight, which both of those are the obvious competitors to the Wraith. Even the Photon is made by Sightmark, but it's still a competitor to it. Almost the same price range, just very similar scope. So we are going to do that in a future episode, and I'm going to hope to do it very soon. I'm going to get an ATN X-Sight back in the hands of both Hans and I, as well as a Photon. I know Hans hasn't seen a Photon in a while, and probably an X-Sight's been a while too, so I want him to see them both. So
I started out on an X-Sight.
That's right. I want you to go back for a few days and put them side by side, and that way we can give an honest assessment and review, because I know several people have asked for that, and we're going to do it. It'll be a good show and be a good comparison, because I already have an opinion. Well, I know on the Photon. I have been using it beside the Photon. The X-Sight, I have not had one out in the field in probably 3 or 4 months, so it'll be nice to get one out, put it side by side with a Wraith, and see how they do. But if you're looking for a Wraith, you're a little bit too late. They were all sold out, not just at Outdoor Legacy, but across the country. Sightmark sold the whole shipment of them, and everybody's been scrambling trying to find one. As far as I know, and I even saw one of the Sightmark officials say on Facebook that they did not believe there was a dealer in the country that had a Wraith available. They believed they were all sold as of this week, and I believe that's absolutely true. I've seen people all over Facebook and these forums scrambling for them. I've been getting phone calls, emails, people trying to find them, and they just don't exist. But the good news is there is another shipment coming. It's not going to be here until July. That is the bad news, but it is going to be coming, and they are already all sold out at Sightmark as well. And we're still taking orders at Outdoor Legacy, but to be honest, by the time this airs, we might not be. we've got to assess where we're at, because we'll be taking orders, but they won't be guaranteed for this next shipment. You can go to the website and you'll be able to look and see if they are or not, because we're going to update, and we're going to just make a clear note on the pre-order page that lets you know whether you'll be on what the guaranteed amount we're going to get or not on that July shipment. After July, I was just going to say real quick, after July, Sightmark says they should be getting monthly shipments for the fall. So I'm sure September, October, November, the supply will be a lot better. There's probably still going to be hard to get, but hopefully easier than they are now.
Yeah. So I'll be coming out with my review here in the next coming days. But we talked about it in the past, and we've talked about the Wraith a lot on this show, and it has definitely been an overwhelming demand for these scopes, and right now just a very limited number. But I've been using it for 3 weeks now. Took some friends out last night to check it out. They're interested in getting one as well, and I mean, they were very impressed with it. I'm just not hearing much, if any, negative feedback on any of these scopes, which is good. You look at the Sightmark Wraith being a brand new unit into the market. Sometimes you expect a few hiccups down the road, but it seems to be overwhelmingly positive.
It is, and I'm going to tell you something. I know there's a lot of guys wondering why we're spending so much time talking about a $500 optic, but I've been in this business for many years, and I really got my feet wet in the night vision industry when the original Photon, not the XT, the original before that came out. It was the first night vision scope to come out below $1,200. And that, again, was the original Photon. Some of y'all may have owned them, the 3 power, and there was a 5 power. And that, well, I think sometime, you know what, we ought to do a history lesson, because I think it's really interesting to really see how that scope changed the whole landscape. And in my opinion, it's how we got to where we are today as an industry. But anyway, I digress. I have never, ever seen anything that has caused such an uproar and so much, just discussion, people looking for something, trying to find something, is this Wraith. I mean, Hans, I know you're seeing it. I mean, it's crazy out there. People excited, looking for them. Guys that have them are posting videos like crazy, and it's a phenomenon that I've never seen. And so I think it's really cool and pretty exciting, because I know there's a lot of new guys coming into night hunting that have never owned a night scope before, and this is going to be their first one. And so that always excites me that this sport and this industry is growing.
Well, people that have got their race in, they're walking around like they got a golden ticket waiting to get into Willy Wonka's chocolate factory right
that's
now.
Right.
But hey, you know what I'm excited to hear about, and what I can't wait to test out in the field. We saw it in Las Vegas at the SHOT Show, is the Axions. What's going on with those?
Yeah, so the Pulsar Axion, that's the new handheld thermals from Pulsar. There's 3 different models. There is the Key XM30, and that is the base model, going to be 2.5 power, does not have internal video recording or smartphone capabilities. That one's going to be $18.99, I believe. Then you've got the regular Axion XM30. It's going to be a 4 power, and I hope I'm saying that right. It's a 4 or a 4.4. I'm going to go with 4. It's about 4 power. I got myself nervous now.
It's in the low 4s.
Yeah, it's around 4 power, and it's going to be $21.99. And then you've got the Axion XM38, and it's going to be a 5 power. And those 2 models, the regular XM30 and XM38, will both have the Wi-Fi smartphone app, as well as video recording. All 3 units are going to be about the size of a laser rangefinder, weigh around 8 to 9 ounces, have a removable rechargeable battery pack. So super excited about them, and they are on the way to the U.S. Pulsar announced that this week and said that they are en route, and we should hopefully be getting those within the next, I'm going to say week or 2, giving ourselves a little time. It might be as soon as next week. I'm not sure. I think it's going to be very, very soon that we'll see those. Now, we've got a lot of guys that are on the pre-order list. I know a lot of other dealers do. And here's the thing you need to know. They're coming in very small quantities, okay? And, if you're on the pre-order list, don't think that just because you're there, you're fixing to get one, because they're going to trickle in. And we're definitely going to be filling the orders as they come in, but they've already given us our allocation. They've already told us how many units of each one that we're going to be getting. And again, I don't normally release that info to customers until I actually get the invoice with a tracking number, because the very last thing I want to do is say, yeah, they told me you're going to get one because you're in line, and then something happens and quantities change. So I'll believe it when I see it, but it's going to be very limited numbers. I think there's one model I'm actually only getting one of. There's some other models that I'm getting a lot more, but anyway. With that said, we should know a lot more within the next week. I know Hans and I both are super excited about getting our hands on them, and we will be coming to you with reviews as soon as we get them. Even if we just get our hands on them, we may do nothing but just give you a real quick what we think, good, bad, and ugly, and then come back after we've had a week or 2 to use them and give you a better review. But super excited that those are coming. We're still waiting on the thermions. No confirmed news on those. The original date was, basically August, maybe late July. And right now, nothing confirmed for sure that we'll see those sooner. Holding out hope that we will. But anyway, so if you're looking for a thermion or an axion, especially the axions because they're coming soon, I would definitely go ahead and jump in line because I think they will start coming in more regularity. Can I say that word? In the next few weeks. So anyway, that's good news though. Oh, one more thing. Changing gears just a little bit. I know we've talked about the Envision Halos a lot on this show. Hans and I have both been using them, and I've got some news that hopefully maybe by the time this thing airs or end of the week, I will have the UNV MDVR Halo cables. So if you go to if you own an Envision and you're wanting to record video, it's all external, and we sell the UNV MDVRs. Those have been pretty much the industry standard MDVR for years. We sell those, and we will have a cable available. And again, I want to be clear that the cable we will have will only be for the UNV MDVR. That's the only thing it's going to work with. A lot of guys call and ask about the cables that we sell, but they're specific to whatever recorder. But the MDVR from UNV is by far the most popular, and that's the one that we sell. So if you're looking for one of those, we will have those very, very soon.
All right. Well, if you're interested in checking out any of the things that we just spoke about, go check it out at outdoorlegacygear.com. If not, if you're not a website person, just give Jason a call at 877-350-1818. He'll be glad to talk to you and answer any questions you have, especially if you're interested in buying anything night vision or thermal related. But so in my show notes, we're going to get to some current news and current topics that are going on right now. And Jason, on my show notes, I have hunting accident story, and accident is in quotation marks. So tell us a little bit about this incident that happened overseas in Sweden or Norway or one of the two, where the gentleman was actually injured and shot with a rifle, obviously with a Pulsar Trail thermal scope mounted on top of it. There's been some video floating around. You told me about it just recently. I had to hop on and go find it, but I had not heard of it until you brought it up.
So this is a pretty crazy deal, and it actually happened in November of 2018, just a few months ago. And I'm not saying that maybe it didn't come out then, but the story has really broke right now in the last few weeks. There is a video floating around out there that was recorded from inside this guy's thermal scope. And so I'm going to set this up with a little bit of info that I've got. And I want to be clear. I was doing some research for the show. I was reading every single news article that I could find, and a lot of them were just regurgitated. So it's basically they're from overseas, but it would be kind of like the AP here. The same news story was getting pushed out to a lot of different news services, so it's the same thing. When I dug deeper and found other news articles, the problem is they had obviously been translated into English from some other language, and I don't know what language they were translated from, but it was like they had used an old version of Google Translate.
Did they didn't translate it into East Texan?
They definitely did not. I mean, I don't know. I'll be honest. It might have read like if I had written the article, but it was very difficult. There was a lot of words that I don't think translated well, and it was extremely difficult to understand. But I was trying to dig and get some more details, but this is what I gleaned from it. The hunter, and I'm using that word loosely, okay? What about the shooter? Let's say that. I don't want to give this guy the credit. The shooter was from Norway. As far as I know, he's remained unnamed, and he was in southern Sweden, and he was supposedly there hunting. I think he had been several times there hunting, said he was hunting, I think, deer and fox and several things, and one of the articles said that it is illegal to hunt deer and fox at night there, and it is also not allowed to use a thermal scope without, and it says permission, and I don't know exactly what that means, but it said without permission, which he did not have. So he was breaking the law by using the scope and I guess supposedly hunting deer, because that wasn't legal there either. And the story is that he shot a 75-year-old man at about 4:30 in the morning on a street or something in front of his house. And the video is actually available online. You can Google it and you can find it, and it's not as disturbing as it might sound. I mean, it is. He's shooting somebody, but it's through a thermal scope, so it's not extremely graphic. You just see him. But I'm going to set this up in case you haven't seen the video, and maybe you don't even want to go watch it, which is fine. It says that he was about 500 and some odd feet, almost 200 yards, basically away from the guy. And when you're watching, it is clearly a human being walking or jogging or doing something, moving. All right. It is clearly. Right. There's not any question in my mind. It is a human. And I can't think of any other animal in the world that this could be but a human.
I think the article that I read was kind of alluding to the fact that maybe he mistook the person for a deer. And man,
0% chance.
In the video, it's clear there's no way anybody, even somebody that's never even looked through a thermal scope, can look through and say there's no way that's a deer. It clearly looks like a 75-year-old man either jogging or walking is what it looks like.
You could you could let my 4-year-old watch the video and pause it and say, "Is that a man or is that a deer?" And he's going to say, "Daddy, that's a man." I mean, it's that clear. And the crazier part than this is that behind the guy, and I'm not talking like 300 yards, I'm talking behind the guy, are houses, big, nice houses. I don't know if this guy was hunting in a subdivision, again, whatever he was doing in a subdivision or what, but I'm not talking about it's a barn a quarter mile away or I'm talking about nice houses right behind this guy, and he shoots him and drops him. And thankfully that the guy was, I don't want to say uninjured, he was, but he's not life-threatening. It didn't hit anything major. It went through him. They said that, just a few centimeters one way or the other, and hit major organs. It didn't hit anything major, so the guy actually lived and appears to be okay. And the shooter claims, that he thought it was a deer, but he didn't go check on the guy. And then when they arrested the guy, he filmed this. They go back and there are images. I saw them on these news articles where he has pointed that thing at other people, and one of them was at a much closer distance, and he had the crosshairs on a guy's head, and he was looked like he was in a backyard or front yard with a small fence around it. And it is, there's not any question whatsoever. He's in his yard and the crosshairs are on it. Crosshairs are on his head. And they charged him with homicide. And his attorney basically says that it was just a big accident and it was a mistake. And he truly just thought he was a deer. I'm telling you, I don't know the story. That there's really not much more than that. I don't know if this guy's deranged or what, but this is not a hunting accident. I mean, if you think it might be, go watch the video for yourself. This is no way.
Well, obviously the charges are still alleged, but it from all accounts, from everything I've seen and read, what Jason said, they looked like they were in a neighborhood. There was clearly a home right behind the person that was walking. There's a lot to the story I think is still to be determined. And definitely once we'll keep track of this and we'll update this story because I'm interested to know how this turns out and see if any more facts come out. But for all of you people that have heard about that story of somebody being injured and shot using a Pulsar trail, don't think it was because you couldn't tell what it was. You can clearly see in the scope on the video, you could tell it was a person. And
I want to be clear. I'm all about innocent until proven guilty. And they haven't released the guy's name, which I'm fine with too. I mean, if he's innocent, super. But there's enough evidence for me to try the guy. I mean,
absolutely.
It is. There's, again, I understand that there's mistakes that are made and accidents happen, and that doesn't mean that it's okay. But this is way past that.
Yeah.
So anyway,
so let's get to another story that's closer to home. Has made some headlines recently, and also I know that when the news came out, a lot of manufacturers and dealers of this particular parts opened up their shipping and said, "Hey, we're shipping to y'all again." But what we're talking about is that a judge has reversed another judge's or another court's decision to ban high-capacity magazines in California. A judge recently reversed that, and so now high-capacity magazines are now being shipped back to residents in California, and that's been some big news here recently.
Well, you've got most of that story right, except that same judge has since then, 1 week later, actually, I don't know the proper legal term, I don't want to say it and be wrong, but put a stay, whatever that's called, where basically he says that the courts have to go back and look at this, which I think is going to be the Ninth Circuit of Appeals, whatever it's called, in California, and they're going to have to go and look at this. So he's halted that. However, in that basically week-long period, it was legal for dealers and manufacturers to ship anything over 10 rounds. Now, let's real quick, and I'm not an expert on California law, and I'm sure we'll have plenty of Californians that listen to the show emailing or calling in, but their ban had been there for almost 20 years. Over anything over 10 rounds was considered high capacity. And then there had been a ballot initiative and I believe a law passed somewhat recently in the recent years that said you couldn't even possess them any longer. In the past, you could possess them over 10 rounds. You just couldn't buy them. Then it said you couldn't even legally own or possess them. So when this judge made this ruling, it just opened the floodgates. And I saw some social media posts and stuff by some of these big ammo and magazine dealers and stuff, shooting accessories, and they were like California special sale, and they were shipping those things like crazy.
Crazy.
I read some stories that said there were gun shops out there that had people lined up, standing around the corner and trying to get them. And thankfully now, this was good news that same federal judge said that anyone who purchased the magazine during that time has the legal right to keep it, and they are in no danger of being prosecuted. They can wait to see how this all works out. And then, obviously, I mean, if it rules back the other way, then, who knows? They may have to get rid of them then. But for now, they can possess them. No longer can you ship them in there. It's halted. But the funniest quote that I saw in there was, it said, every time a cash register rings, a gun grabber loses their wings. And I got the biggest kick out of that.
It may be a tough road ahead because I may be mistaken, and somebody may correct me, but I think the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals is, I think, the most liberal in the nation.
I think Rush Limbaugh has called him the Ninth Circus Court of Appeals for years. So
I think it's going to be an uphill battle on that. But California residents, pretty soon they're going to tell you can only have one bullet at a time, and you got to keep it in your front pocket with the button snapped. So you may it's tough, man. I feel your pain, and y'all just need to come down to Texas and go pig hunt with us.
There
How
you
about
go.
that?
That's right. Well, good deal.
Well, so there's a little bit of current news for y'all. We're going to do that from time to time because whenever stuff comes up in the news, Jason and I are pretty interested in that kind of stuff. Him and I talk on a regular basis on different news topics, and we definitely wanted to bring it up and share those stories. If you haven't heard about them, now you know a little bit about them. If we're wrong, let us know we're wrong because we want to know. We want to have the correct information. But I know Jason's been reading up. I'll let him research all that stuff because I didn't want to read tonight.
Yeah, that's right.
But hey, I want to get to our next segment, and I went out with a few buddies last night They're actually on the list for the new Axions, and fairly new to thermal. I don't have an Axion right now. Nobody has an Axion, but
I was going to say you do. You've got one.
No,
where'd you get one?
No, don't have one. Wish I did, but they wanted to check out my Helion, and they, like I said, new to thermal. They wanted to kind of see what it looks like and all that kind of stuff. So we went around with Hayden, Brad, and Ridge from good old Ben Wheeler, Texas. But so they're really big on these pig pipes. Every location that we go to, they have these pig pipes set up. And they asked me about them, and they asked if I use them. I'm very aware of them. I know a lot of people that use them. I personally, I don't use a pig pipe. And when they asked about it, I really couldn't give them a good reason why, other than I'm just lazy and don't want to do it. But now I think of myself going out there all the time and digging holes with a post hole digger and burying corn in the ground, which is probably more work than building a pig pipe. But they were talking about stories where these hogs were getting these pig pipes and pushing them, 100, 200 yards out of a field into the woods. And it's tethered down, into the ground, and they're still getting those things disconnected and pushing them all over the place. But I know that you use a pig pipe. You're a big fan of it. First of all, give us a brief explanation on how you put one of these things together.
All right. So for those that don't know, a pig pipe is essentially a piece of PVC pipe, normally 4-inch, and some people use 6-inch. I know there's guys that use 55-gallon drums. All right, but that's a little big for me. But normally 4-inch PVC pipe. You take it, you can cut it any length you want. I normally do mine, somewhere around 4 foot. That's pretty easy if you buy an 8-foot joint. You can cut it and have 2 of them. Then you just take on one end, you can put a solid cap, glue that on. Then on the other end, you put a threaded cap. And so, you put the coupler on there with the threads. Then you put that, obviously the threaded cap end on it. Then the advisable way to do this is to go back to your end where you have the solid cap. And and by the way, hang on, I'm going to tell y'all a trick, okay? This is a trick that I learned from the School of Hard Knocks, which is how I learn everything.
Sounds like somebody's going to get hurt. Go ahead.
No, this is great. Now listen to this. So what you do is, on the end that it's solid, you put an eye bolt, okay? It doesn't have to be big, but big enough that the hog's not going to break it off. So you put an eye bolt there. So it's got a round metal eye in it. And you take that, you put a short piece of chain on it, and you tether that to the ground. I'll talk about that in a second. But here's the trick. And I learned this on my first one. When you put that eye bolt in there, do it before you glue it to that 4-foot long piece of pipe. Because let me tell you something. When
don't admit that to people. Oh my gosh.
When you stick I had already drilled the hole. It was great. And I glued that thing on there, and I stuck that bolt in there, and I'm red faced right now if you're watching this on YouTube. I'm so red. I was like, how am I going to reach down in there and put this nut? And I didn't want to just put 2 nuts. I want to put 2 so that, it would stay tight and that one nut wouldn't back off. And I wanted a lock washer. And I looked, and it's 4 foot long. And I'm like, my arm won't reach. Well, I'm just going to tell you, had I taken some pictures and showed you what I'd done, I'm just going to say this. It involved a wrench, duct tape, and a long piece of wood.
Why didn't you just cut off the end that you glued and start over?
Well, then, I'm OCD. Then it wouldn't have been 4 foot anymore.
Oh, my gosh.
And the other thing was I was in a hurry. I didn't have an extra end cap, and I'd had to gone back to town. And, anyway, don't do that. Put that in, all before you glue the end on. And then the other trick, and this is pretty obvious, but I have seen people who haven't done this, and it makes sense. The best way is to use a heavy-duty swivel clip. You can get those little clips at Lowe's that, you know what I'm talking about. It clips into chain, or like for a dog leash or something. Make sure it's got a swivel on it, though, because those hogs are going to push this thing around in a circle, and if that doesn't swivel, it's just going to twist until it binds up the chain, and something's going to have to give. So put a swivel there, put a short piece of chain. That's up to you how long you want it. I don't go long at all. I mean, maybe 18 inches. And then put some sort of an anchor in the ground. I've done some different things. My ground is really hard here in the summer, and it's really soft in the winter. But if it's soft enough ground, I buy like at the Tractor Supply, Atwoods, wherever. Lowe's may have them. Basically an anchor, and it's got it's a big screw. And don't buy the ones that are like 4 foot long. There's no reason for that. But I buy the ones that are like 12 inches, maybe 18. Screw those things into the ground. It's got a D-ring on it. And then my advice is to put a clip with a swivel on that end as well. That way you've got both ends swiveling. And what these hogs will do, and the most important part, you've got to drill holes in the pipe. Yeah. Now, I researched this. I talked to a lot of people. I read a bunch on forums, watched videos. Everybody's got a different method of how many holes, where they put the holes, how big the holes. I really have had to toy with that for myself. I started out with not enough because I wanted to be conservative. I didn't put enough holes. I came back, put a few more. I didn't think they were big enough, so I enlarged them. But you do want to start with a limited number of holes, because what happens is these hogs are going to come out there. You fill it with corn. They're going to start rolling it around, and the corn, as it rolls, will fall out. And then if you put too many holes, and I mean, it doesn't take that many. I mean, if you put 6 holes that are too big, you can run this whole thing out of corn in 10 minutes. Okay. Right. So you really need to play with that. I would advise just toy with it. And then, like I said, they'll start running this thing around in a circle, pushing it, because hogs are very intelligent, and they will figure out that when that thing rolls, they will see corn falls out, and they're smart enough to put 2 and 2 together there.
So I've got a couple questions.
Okay.
What size drill bit do you use for the holes on the pig pipe? Do you remember?
No, I don't remember. I know that.
That's an important. That's an important.
Well, I know, but I didn't know we were going to get that detailed in the story.
Right.
But yeah,
you got to play with it. You got to.
Yeah, you do need to play. Go look. There's plenty of guys that have got their plans out there and say what they've done. Again, I started on the conservative side, and I will tell you about a couple more mistakes that aren't as glaring as the eye bolt. But
let me get back to the other question. You can get into the other list of mistakes. The corn that you put in there, do you sour corn and put it in there?
That goes along with my mistake.
Oh, okay.
All right, so I'm going to answer. No, I'm going to answer that and at the same time take my mistakes. So when I tested this, I put corn in it, and I was in my shop, and I start rolling it around, and corn's falling out like crazy. I'm like, oh man, this is maybe too many holes. This is great. This is good. Yeah. So then I went down there, staked the whole thing out, and I poured soured corn in it. Well, soured corn has expanded from the water, so it wouldn't come out, at all. Wouldn't come out. I was like, golly. So I made the holes a little bit bigger, and they would come out, but not very well, because again, it's just wet. It's sticking together. It's not the same as dry, slick, cleaned corn. And so I had some trouble with that. And I've made a couple different of these pipes, 2 or 3 different ones. And what I found is cleaned deer corn. I mean, just, slick, clean deer corn comes out the easiest and the best. Soured corn, your holes definitely have to be bigger, and you probably need more. But once you do that, if you put regular corn in there, a hog can empty that thing in no time, just minutes. Right. And the other problem with soured corn in them is that it's much harder for them to get it all out. And if they don't hit it for a while, it sits in there and dries and clumps and molds, and you got a big mess. And it's hard. I mean, you can get it out. I mean, unless you just maybe had way too much, you have to stick a stick in there. But I've had some dry in there and get nasty, and I had to unhook it, turn it upside down, take the end off, and kind of beat it, and you can get it out. But I think that soured corn works better just because they can smell it and they'll find it. But I don't like putting it in there because of the mess. So I've kind of settled on this. I will put regular, slick, clean deer corn in there, and then I'll pour soured corn on top of the pipe, just around it. So I attract them, let them come find the candy. Once they do and they smell it and get there, they're coming back. I mean, they will absolutely come back for that corn, and they will stay there for hours. And this is one of the things, if you've used, like I know Hans uses, and I do in some places, like the cellular cameras, this is where you can really kill hogs with the use of cellular cameras. If you've got a spot that you can't see, but if you could get the text or the email, you could get there. The pig pipes are great for that because they, again, part of it's almost like it's a toy, but it's work for them, and they go around and around and they mess around with it, and so it's not something usually where they come in, take one bite, and just walk on. They've got to work to get it.
I think, and that goes along the same lines as burying corn. They're having to work to get it, which keeps them there longer. It keeps their focus on something other than their surroundings. They're trying to dig up this corn. But I'm convinced, man, y'all have motivated me I'm going to go out. I'm going to make one of these pig pipes. I'm going to do it just like you said, well, with some corrections from some of your past mistakes.
Right.
But I'm going to do it. I'm going to test it out, and I'll report back and let y'all know, because I've never done it before. I've never made one.
Guys, if you want to build one of these, here's the thing. This is the cheapest, quickest, low-risk thing you'll ever build. I mean, if you do this and it doesn't work, you can throw the thing in the garbage and not lose any sleep over it. I mean, a short piece of pipe, an end cap, a coupler with the threaded. There's nothing to this thing, and you can do it in 15 minutes with almost no tools. So there's nothing to it. I say definitely give it a try. And one thing that I will give another warning, and I know it probably depends on everybody's different soil type. We've got a lot of red clays here, and that stuff is really bad about it. And I'm probably, to be honest, any kind of dirt will do this. But if it gets wet, and what's going to happen is it's going to, the water's going to splash up. That dirt is going to coat around those threads, and then it's going to dry, and it's like cement, and you can't get it off. And so, most of those caps have that big square on the end where you can take a wrench or something. I would advise, when you go out there every time to go check this thing, be sure you've got a big pair of channel locks, or even something else that I'll tell you will work is as a hammer and a screwdriver. A lot of times I'll just take, if I don't have channel locks, like on my Ranger or something, I'll just take a hammer and just start tapping real softly around those threads, breaking that, bond, and then I can get it open. But I have no joke. I've gone down before, driven way back to a spot, and I cannot get it open. I'm talking like you just can't get it. And so anyway, carry that with you. But I think they work. I think they're fun, and it's a cheap, easy way to something to try. And again, put your camera in front of it. Even just got a regular deer camera, put it in and see how the hogs do and what they do. And one last thing I will say about them carrying it off, I had the exact same thing. I had a chain break. It actually broke. I used a cheap one of those clips, like I said, for like a dog leash or something. I used a cheap one, and they broke it. And we went down there, and the chain was laying there, and I was like, where is the pig pipe? I had my daughter with me, and we started hunting all over the pasture, and we actually found it about 75 yards away in the woods, past our barbed wire fence, and we found it back over there in the woods. They had pushed it all the way over there, and it was empty.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, that is awesome. So like I said, I'm going to go make one. I'll report back, let you know what I think. I'm sure it's going to be good. If there is a way to mess it up, I will find a way to mess it up.
Well, I've already told you all the things to not do.
Well, Jason knows that more than anything. If it's going to be messed up, I'll find a way to mess it up. But, hey, we thank y'all for joining us on this show. This is episode 49 of the Late Night Vision Show. If you haven't, go check out our new website. It's thelatenightvisionshow.com. You can find all of our past episodes. There's a lot of good information on there, direct links to the outdoorlegacygear.com website. But we're going to be doing a pretty cool giveaway soon, and Jason and I are in discussions with that and how to do that, but I think we're going to give away something pretty cool. So stay tuned for that. If you haven't already, though, please go check us out on YouTube. If you're watching this video on YouTube, thank you very much. If you're not subscribed to us, please go do that. It's the Late Night Vision Show on YouTube. Also, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram under the same name, the Late Night Vision Show. If you have any questions or comments, please email us at thelatenightvisionshow@gmail.com. And you can always call us, leave us a voicemail, send us a text message of a hog or coyote kill that we can share on social media. And that number is 903-833-4461. If you want to find me, you can find me on YouTube at Hans ETX. That's Hans East Texas on YouTube, or on Instagram, it's Hans ETX. And Jason, where can they find you, bud?
Yeah, they can find me. Most important place is outdoorlegacygear.com. The phone number, I think Hans already said it, but it's 877-350-1818. And if you ever have questions before you purchase or anything about thermal or night vision scopes, feel free to give me a call. Be glad to help. You can also find us by searching Outdoor Legacy Gear on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and we would love to talk to you, love to hear from you, and we just appreciate y'all's support of the show. Hard to believe we are coming up on a 1 year, and definitely stay tuned the next few weeks for sure, because like Hans said, we're going to decide on some kind of a giveaway. We're going to give away something cool for our 1 year anniversary, so stay tuned to every episode. We thank y'all for listening. We appreciate your support, and we ask that y'all just keep staying safe in the fields.